Today we're going to look at Wayfinder React. This is a web-based package to interact with Wayfinder protocol. As in my previous video, we talked about Wayfinder Core, which is the core package that handles everything behind the scenes. But for web-based, for React project, you can easily use Wayfinder React and have access to some hooks that you can utilize and a provider that you can utilize in your application as well. And if you haven't watched the previous video, I'll link that down in the description. With no further ado, let's spin up a new project, a new Vite project. Create Vite at latest. I like using latest because it gives you the newest stuffs. And I'm going to name this Wayfinder React. So it's going to give us some options to choose from. And yeah, you choose React, choose TypeScript, and then yes, we install the packages. Yeah, so the packages are done installing, and as you can tell, this has just sped up a new local development server. And as you can see in the browser, it has just opened a scaffold up here, but we shall delete all that. Before we even do any sort of coding, we need to install the Wayfinder related packages. And there are 3 packages we're going to install. First of all, we will install r.io/SDK to have access to the RIO network or the RIO network gateways. The second package we're going to install is at RIO/Wayfinder core, which is the package that I talked about in my previous video, and it has all the behind the scenes and type of customization you can do. And the last package now, which is going to enable us to use Wayfinder with all the hooks, it's at r.io/Wayfinder React. Wayfinder React. Nice. We'll give this a couple of seconds to install, and then we can jump into our application and start working with all these packages. Yeah, now that all packages have been installed, we can go back here. Let me try to zoom in on this. I'll just close the chat here. Yeah, I'll come to, let me try to reduce this. Yeah, I think that will work fine. Come to app.tsx and probably delete all of this. And instead we shall just have a div here that says, yeah, Wayfinder React. But the first thing you do is you need to provide the provider or the Wayfinder provider to wrap it around your application. So what I'm going to do here is to do Wayfinder provider, and you import that from Wayfinder React. And then yeah, we need a closing brackets here, then put this in the middle, just so that your whole application is wrapped around Wayfinder. And by doing this, you already have some pre-configured or default values that you can use with Wayfinder. So you can pass this and start using Wayfinder right out of the box. Coming to our app.tsx here, yeah, I'm going to do const, and I'll import some couple of variables there, or parameters or values from use Wayfinder URL. As you can see, we have 3 hooks here, but this is the initialization hook that we will probably not use, but we shall focus on these 2 hooks, which is use Wayfinder URL and use Wayfinder request. So as you can tell, this brings back the resolve URL, and this one here is to request data on the Permaweb, because the sole purpose or the main purpose of Wayfinder is to access your archive data in a decentralized manner. So I'm going to do use Wayfinder URL, and here you can pass a couple of parameters. You can pass an RNS name, you can pass a transaction ID, or you can pass, lastly, the last thing you can pass, I think it's a original URL. So for now, I'm just going to pass an RNS name, and I'm going to pass my name, right? Like my RNS name, and this points to my blog or my main site. So this hook returns a couple of parameters. I think we have resolved URL, we have loading, is loading, we also have error, I think the error, yeah, we have error, and a couple of other parameters. But for now, I think we are only interested in yeah, actually, let's just use is loading and resolve URL. And then what we're going to do here, just for a quick demo, let's try to log the resolved URL so that you can see how that looks like. So we just do resolved URL, save that, and then come back to our application. Try to reload and see if we have any error or something. Let's check the console. Invalid hook. You need to pass the hook inside the body of a function. This error comes from the fact that we are using React 19, but Wayfinder React wants React 18. So what we need to, as you can see here, this is React 19, but we need to have something like React 18. So I'm just going to do React 18 and then React DOM at 18 as well. So with this, after installing version 18, they should be compatible now and this should run smoothly. So we come back here and we reload the app, and yeah, you can see Wayfinder React outputting as expected. And yeah, as you can see, we have some logs here. It starts as null because it's loading. Normally this time here it's loading. If you check well here in the console, you can see different gateways are being rendered with my RNS name, which means what we're doing is working as expected. There is also another hook that is called use Wayfinder request. So here you get a request object by doing use Wayfinder request, just like this, and this will return you a request object that you can use to make your requests. And then I just need to remove this, and I can have here a function, right, which is make request. Okay, this is not how it's supposed to work. You just need to do here, you have an input, you can do an input and some payload. As you can see here, the input is the URL and then some request info. So if we use the ARR protocol, which is you do AR like this, and I'm not going to do Merdikim this time. I can actually do it, but I won't log the actual data that comes back. So if you see response, we shall just check if response.ok is there. And then, yeah, that will be it for now. But you can make different types of requests with this, with the AR protocol. And I think I'll make at some point one video to showcase the power of this protocol as well, right? Which is all tied with Wayfinder. With that in place, what I'm going to do here is to do click me, right? Just a simple button. Click, yeah, click me. And this is going to be a button, and it's going to have an on click, so just so that we can make the request whenever I click the button. So on click is going to be make request, and yeah, that should just show us that this request works and it goes through. We won't see the type of data that comes back. And with that, I can just reload here and do click me, and you'll see here in the console we should see true, which is response.ok, which means it made a request to Arrive and the request came back with our data. And actually, I'm going to do something a bit different here. I'm going to look for one image transaction ID. So I'll come to the history and check for when, yeah, this should give me a transaction ID here. And I'll just pick the one that comes first. I see ID, I'll pick this and add it somewhere here, maybe. Yeah, const transaction ID is going to be equal to this transaction ID right here. And I should be careful with how this is being added because Copilot is also trying to play around. So what I'm going to do here is I'll do template literals AR slash rather than Merdikim here, I'm just going to do transaction ID. Yeah, and this is a bit messy here because my Copilot is playing around. I'll remove this to make it easy. And I think there is an extra, oh, okay, this should go. And yeah, that should work like that. So do ARs slash transaction ID, and it should return the image. And I think I can do a response dot URL. Yep. to get the URL of that image. And what I can do instead here is to add that image somewhere down here, right? And I'll do URL, and yeah, my image. So I'll wrap all of this under one tag, just so that you remove the complaints. And this URL, I'll add it here as a state. We'll have URL. I'm having a hard time typing. Then set URL. This is going to be equal to a use state. And by default it's just going to be an empty string. And as you can see here, rather than logging this, we shall do set URL to that URL. And with that in place, yeah, we should be good to see some results being output down here. So I get back to this, and I'm going to close the console for now. And if I reload, by default you won't see anything because there is no source image or the URL. But when I click here, it's going to take some seconds to load, and you should see the image output here after a while. But it doesn't seem to be outputting, so probably there is an error somewhere. Okay, let's try to debug what happened here. Let's try to log this to see if we are even getting a response in the first place. Response.url. So if I do make a request again, or it said failed to route request after max retries. Looks like whatever default routing strategy this Wayfinder provider has by default is not working as expected. We shall try again one more time to see if that is going to work. If it doesn't work, it's well and good. We shall change the strategy later on and make it work, which means sometimes the default strategy might not work, so you can change to a different strategy depending on your use case or your application. But before we even go there, we shall come back to this. I'm going to show you a different way of achieving the same without the need to use this approach. We can use a different approach, which is the resolve URL approach that we had here. So resolved URL, I'm going to add that as my URL. Resolved URL here. And now what I'm going to do is, rather than adding an RNS name, I'm going to use TXID. So TXID equals TXID this way. And to make it short, since they are all using the same name, you can just do this. And now this is going to complain here because I think the resolve URL might be undefined. Yeah, you see it's string or null. So what we do here to shut the error, we can just do that. And I think I need to reduce this a little bit so that we can see more text. And with that simple technique of using the use Wayfinder URL hook, we can achieve what this achieves behind the scene, right? And let's see what image we get back if we reload. So right now it's loading. We should probably add a loading state. And because we're using a default strategy that seems to be failing, this actually prompts me to my next thing to discuss about, which is customizing this Wayfinder provider with the strategy that you want. So let's do that right now. Let's first create the strategy that we'd like to use. For now, I'm going to make it super easy, and my strategy is going to be equal to, what strategy should I use? I'm going to use the random strategy. Oh no, sorry, it's not a hook, it's a strategy. New random routing strategy like this. And what I'm going to do is to pass the RIO object here that I will need to define as well. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is to put a limit or a provider, gateways provider first, gateways provider. And now I need to define the gateways provider as new network gateways provider, because I want to use the RIO network to do whatever I need to do. And I actually discussed how to make these strategies and all the strategies available in the previous video about Wayfinder Core. And if you can check, this random routing strategy is coming from Wayfinder Core, right? So you can check that video to see how to customize your routing strategy out of the box. So by doing this, I need to add RIO because we shall use the RIO gateways. Then I'm going to add a limit that I need to have a limit of 5 gateways to choose from randomly. And yeah, that should be enough for now. I won't really go deep into how to customize these strategies further because I've discussed that in the previous video. And again, you can check that in the description below. So what I'm going to do is to define this RIO instance, and it's going to be equal to RIO from the RIO SDK.mainnet because I want to use the mainnet SDKs. Okay, we have routing strategy. Does this, oh no, this, we can just remove this for now and just have gateway strategy like that. And that should be largely enough. And now we need to pass this strategy to our Wayfinder provider. So we'll come here and do routing settings, and then strategy, right? Routing settings and then strategy. And this is going to use our strategy. If we save that and come back here, we should we should see it loading and our image is showing up. This is the image that we're trying to load. You see how easy it gets to have this defined strategy as you want, passing it to the provider, and then from anywhere within your application, you can use Wayfinder URL or use Wayfinder request. And using, for example, if you want to resolve a transaction ID, you can just use Wayfinder URL and output that there easily. Let's try to delete all of this. Use Wayfinder URL here can accept different types of parameters, if I can call them that way. So we have transaction ID, we have RNS name. We also have original URL. So for example, this is an original URL, right? You can use the AR protocol, or you can use, for example, if you want to route your requests from arif.net, right? arif.net/transaction ID, right? If you want to reroute this request to one of the RIO gateways. And if we do again resolve URL here, let's delete this and do resolve URL, you should be able to see the image output again as expected. So we do this here, and then yeah, it reloads automatically and you can see the image. If we change this and do AR like this, we should again see the same image. And to show you that it works, I can try to reload and you should see the image coming out again, which is really amazing and straightforward to use. Other than this, we've seen how you can do transaction ID, right? But then if I do RNS name, it's not going to output an image because that's not an image, unless your RNS name points to an image, I think. But in my case, my RNS name points to my website, so it will not work in this case. Some things to pick up from the Wayfinder React package is we have two hooks, which is use Wayfinder URL and use Wayfinder request. And also we have a provider here that you can customize with either routing settings and routing strategies, or you can as well configure this with gateways provider. So if you configure it with gateways provider, remember that you can have network gateways provider or static gateways provider. And if you configure it with strategy, with our routing settings, and then the strategy, we have 5 types of strategies. And if you want to know more about them, there are the things I covered in the Wayfinder Core video. So if you've watched this and you want to see how well you can customize your Wayfinder React package, you can just check that video to have more context and more ideas. But before I end this tutorial, let's try to just use gateways provider here. And I'm going to do cost provider. And that's going to be equal to this. I can just pick this from here to make it easy, right? And remove one. Okay, So gateway's provider is going to be equal to provider this way. And if we save this, we should expect the same output. You can see the image is there, it reloads, the image is still there. And so yeah, that's how easy you can use this package. And if you want to learn more, you can go to docs, again, docs.ar.io. Docs are now very easy to navigate. You come to the Wayfinder integration, then you scroll, you'll see Wayfinder React here, and you can see everything about this package and the documentation.